Birla Opus Paints.
India is holding Artificial Intelligence Summit, probably the biggest, and yes, first in the global south. On this and many other issues, I am joined by Jayant Chaudhary, Minister of State with independent charge of skill development, entrepreneurship and education. Sir, thank you very much for sharing time. And let me begin this conversation by asking you, in today's world, can we dissociate skill development and entrepreneurship with artificial intelligence?
I don't think you can ignore artificial intelligence irrespective of what job you do. If you're in a formal education program, if you're doing a short-term skilling program, if you want to become an employer in the future or you're a job seeker, it's going to have impact across verticals. And that is why I think India has taken this step of hosting a global event of this scale and magnitude. We should all take pride as citizens that even though we had catching up to do, we have not taken long. And I think we are in a position poised to take advantage of the second mover advantage, as you may say. For the first time, Global South is playing host. A number of global leaders, technologists, researchers, people from large enterprises, people who've built models, who've built products, Indian startups, students, casual observers, people who can come and see and listen and hear and understand for themselves. It's a huge, massive audience. It's sort of like the Sangam, like a Kumbh Mela happening in India, with the new technology being the focus and India being in a leadership position. So I think we should take pride in the event. It has huge ramifications for the education space, for the skilling space, for sure, because I feel that we actually have to be ahead of the curve. We have to be in touch with industry, ahead of what the industry requires, so that our curriculum can be aligned. And in the academic space, we cannot make dramatic shifts. Everything has to be nuanced. Everything has to be based on a demand. Everything has to also take into account different sensibilities, the diversity of India, our different languages that we speak, the different ways we work and think and live our lives. All of that has to be accommodated for. So that is why if we are embarking on a change, on a new path, this is a starting point, and it will take time for us to make that gradual shift. But I'm happy that at pace and at scale, we're thinking about what AI can impact. And this is not just an AI summit. It's not an AI summit for profit or opportunity. It is about impact. Can AI become a global common good? And India has always asked for more innovation, for a policy regime that sets guardrails but encourages, embraces innovation, disruption.
Okay.
India stood for more open platforms, for open access. And if you look at our AI mission, our strategy of creating compute facilities, housing them in educational institutions, encouraging more deep research into deep tech, new startup fund that has just been announced, approved by cabinet. All of these measures are aligned so that the powers that be in India, the dominant powers, they have to understand that they have to keep changing and adapting.
So how are you fusing artificial intelligence with skilling? Because artificial intelligence is one about coding and another is about skilling. You are in charge of both skill and entrepreneurship, something which played a foundational role in consolidating America in the 21st century in terms of tech. So what is the vision of the government and how are you bringing them together?
Well, Education Ministry just did a 3-day event. We're still in early roads in really truly understanding the way AI is going to require dramatic shifts in curriculum. You spoke about coding. With the vibe coding potential that is already being talked about, some of the products that are already been launched. Sarvam has also launched a whole suite of products and capabilities. Do we need to teach programming languages? What does this mean for deep research? A lot of those facets require deeper thought, more consideration and conversation. That is what this event is going to achieve. We did a 3-day event in education called Bodhan AI. Center of Excellence for Impact of AI in Education has been established in IIT Madras. And they have set out to to create an open architecture stack, education stack, which will then enable more research, will enable startups to access the data points that we have. Because we need to contextualize AI to our own needs. India needs its own solutions, and it will come from Indians, from our own technologists, from our own capable young students and researchers. While global models are there and we are using them, I don't think that they are the complete solution for India.
Absolutely. So in context of India, let me put this question this way. AI is an enabler in terms of skills. It can also create disparity of power. India is a diverse country, urban India, semi-urban India, rural India. So how would you be fusing AI, skill development, entrepreneurship to the benefit of workers in the villages, in the informal sector, so that our rural economy, people in rural India also get empowered as people in urban India? What is your vision?
Technology naturally can break down barriers. It can also erect new barriers. We are very cognizant of that. So that is why we are attempting to create the DPI, replicate the DPI success in the space of education and skills. With the Skill India Digital Hub, which is open access, interoperable, it is now taken on pretty much all of the schemes that are run by different ministries, different states. Some states have created their own platforms for building visibility into the skilling architecture. So that is, all those systems and protocols are now talking to each other. We've launched a free course, which is 15-hour module for everyone, a skilling for AI readiness, where we've got top vendors to come give us courses. You choose. If you want to do a NASCOM course, you can choose that. You want to do a course created by HCL, you pick that course. And there's an academic credit provided for that course. There's also a 45-hour course for teachers, because while students are ready, they're aware, they want to learn, we need to build capacity in our teacher ecosystem, trainer ecosystem. They also need to shift. The training pedagogy needs to change. So we've got these free courses available for everyone. It's encouraging response. Honorable President herself launched this program in the beginning of the year, and already more than 2 lakh people have enrolled for the program. I have done this course. So, and I'm actually going to village meetings. I was in 2 meetings in Hathras and Bulandshahr a couple of days ago. It was farmers in village settings, a lot of young people. And I told them, कि AI सीखना चाहते हो? They all raised their hands. They know if you want to become a driver, plumber, electrician, if you're a farmer, if you want to do a white collar job, AI is, you need to learn AI. And I asked them, I've done the course, will you do the course? They said, we will do the course.
Can you tell me what your government has done, your ministry has done in context for farmers, in context of skill development, AI, entrepreneurship, especially for the farmers?
Well, thank you for asking me that question. This is a constituency that I feel personally attached to, and I'm answerable to, as all ministries in this country are, given our huge population base that is still engaged in farming. The economic impact of farming activities, allied activities on not just rural development, but the India story, and our capacity and capability in a global context as being a provider of grain, our potential for employment generation in the food processing sector. This is the vital sector for our skill development programs, and we have a number of institutions which are grassroots oriented. We have more than 14,000 ITIs which are there in most rural parts of the country, whether it's the northeast, whether it's the south, whether it's the north, every region has ITIs. I believe under the PM Setu scheme, which has just been announced, 60,000 crore package, a reimagining and revitalization and a huge investment into not just the skill labs and infrastructure creation, but also the programming that is going to happen. Themes of rural development, grassroots entrepreneurship, and even in agriculture, the technicalities that are going up with advent of mechanization. They need to understand more structures of marketing, e-commerce. There are e-commerce platforms today, ENAM scheme. All of these require a reskilling for the farmers who are engaged in traditional farming. There's a tremendous scope and a requirement for us to step up and to have these programs out at scale. We're in constant conversation with Ministry of Agriculture. Shivraji is someone who understands this in a very deep and nuanced manner. And both me and him have had a series of meetings on discussions on this. The way they have envisaged is that the Krishi Vigyan Kendra, which is there in every district of the country, should become the one-stop solution, a skilling center, a knowledge base. So apart from the regular agri-extension activities that they have and the kind of disposal and the access to knowledge institutions of the ICAR that they have access to, we want to now broad base it and converge all our skilling programs utilizing KVK network as well. So our ITIs, the hub and clusters that are covered under PM Setu, our Krishi Vigyan Kendras, and targeted programs. For me, for instance, if you look at the Braj region, in Mathura, even parts of Haryana, Bharatpur, where water salinity is typically an issue that has affected farming. There is huge potential for inland shrimp. So I was speaking to the Honorable Minister. He said there's a university there in Mathura. A new college for inland fishery and shrimp has been set up, so that we're going to do a workshop together, calling the farmers, inviting them, taking them through how they can create an FPO, what are the schemes that different schemes where they have subsidies that they can avail of. A lot of that awareness building has to be embarked on, and we are working whole of government approach. Skilling is one important piece of the pie.
Okay, so before we move forward in this interview, your comments on the Prime Minister Kaushal Vikas Yojana, entire thing has been revamped 4.0 version. So just tell us about the structural changes in the scheme and how is it being monitored and what's your assessment in terms of its delivery?
See, short-term skilling, which is the responsibility and the core objective of the scheme, has two aspects. One is recognition of prior learning, where you see that there is a huge informal sector, people already engaged who have a knowledge base. It is not certified, and therefore it is not valuable in the market, in the job market. So we need to assess it and certify it. This needs to happen at scale, and that process needs to be very seamless and open, so that someone who's already engaged, they must see the value and the aspirational aspect of their skill being certified. So that is one massive part of PMKVY. Second aspect is the short-term training, which could be a student coming out of a college, could be a student coming out of a polytechnic, could be a student after 12th grade. Even in school, they want to pick up a short-term program, a 30-hour course which is valuable for them. And this is what industry wants. They want employability. They are not hankering for and going after formal qualifications. They want to see skills. So the PMKVY scheme is designed to be dynamic, to be demand driven, to be focused on these gap areas. After becoming minister, I've thought a lot on this, and we've had a number of discussions within the ministry with all the stakeholders, and we've realized a couple of things. Number one, unlike the educational system, we have legacy institution. स्कूल 50 साल से स्कूल चल रहे हैं, कुछ हमारे यहाँ यूनिवर्सिटी चल रही हैं, कॉलेजेस चल रहे हैं, 100 years it's been continuing. There's an established system, there's a regulator, there's a curriculum development. PMKVY was really just part of this new ministry that came up. So one of the important goals we have is, are we able to engage with and create an ecosystem where private training partners who are closely aligned to industry, who bring a certain quality, can come and take part in this scheme. Second aspect is that where does PMKVY fit in the architecture? You have ITIs, who are running the long-term skilling, 2-year certificate courses. You have polytechnics, and polytechnics are closely aligned to more to the engineering side, to technical education. You have certain skilling programs now with NEP that are happening in schools. You have Jan Shikshan Sansthan, which is a skilling program run completely by social organizations that is more rudimentary, lower on the NSQF, and I'm going more technical, but I want to bring out these technical aspects for your audience to understand. NSQF is a National Skill Qualification Framework. So the lower end of those jobs, those are the kind of short-term skilling programs done by JSS. So where does PMKVY fit? PMKVY 4, to my mind, fits in the gaps where you have a new semiconductor mission, you have new investments coming in, you don't have a trained workforce. You need to work with the investors, with the industry, you need to work with the mission and the academic resources to create the programs. You need to strengthen the private sector to come forward and say that we want targets and we are going to train these people. AI mission. Again, this is a whole parallel effort that needs to be undertaken. So all these national missions need to have dedicated skilling initiatives, and that is where PMKY can come up. So the future skills, the emerging skills, you need drone operators, you need people with cloud computing skills,
new age skills.
So PMKY4 had large potential of taking up those kind of skilling programs and creating new curriculum and institutions that take that forward. What we need is build for more stability, which means you need more visibility in your skilling programs. What is the support that government is going to give? What part of these schemes can actually be run in our government institutions? So we've now opened this up to more institutes of national importance. So we have even IITs who've come forward and said, we want to do PMKVY courses. How can this be aligned as NEP requires, even in our school? Our entire school system, they don't have skill labs. Can we create a repository of master trainers and instructors who can then work with those institutions as well? And then the gap is also the Northeast, the tougher terrains. Our women, who typically our women participation in skilling is quite low, specifically in the ITIs. In our NAPs, our apprenticeship promotion scheme, which happens mostly in old industry and the factory floors, women participation has been low. Can we supplement that using PMKVY? And I'm happy to know that and tell you that in PMKVY 4.0, our women respondents, our women trainees outnumber the men.
Are you satisfied with the industry interface between those who get trained and those who get absorbed?
No, you can never be satisfied. There is a lot to be done, a lot left to be desired. We need industry really to understand that they have skin in the game. For a long time, Indian industry has competed on a global scale based purely on cost, because we have a huge base of labor and they are willing to work and they are hungry for work, and therefore we don't need to formalize them. With the new labor codes, with the new effort by Government of India to formalize them and to creditize the skills, to provide dignity to any kind of work that is being done by our worker base, it is imperative that we also compete on quality. And for that, industry must invest. This is not a responsibility of Government of India. And that is one of the core principles of PMKVY, that you need industry to come forward. And
do you think industry needs to step up here?
I think I can be very, very frank. They need to do more. It pains me when I hear chairmen of large corporate organizations say, we are not getting skilled workforce in India. India is already the skill capital of the world. Entire world is hungry for our skilled professionals, for young people to come out. And we have whatever requirement there is. There are young people, young boys and girls who are willing and who are capable. But industry needs to get more invested in their local communities. They need to get better localized hiring practices. They need to build technical expertise in their workforce. They need to invest more in the reskilling and upskilling of their own workforce and the communities in which their factories are. And this has also been incorporated in our new PM Setu scheme, where we are saying government is spending. There's a 60,000 crore outlay which is planned, but a part of that has to come from industry. There has to be CSR. This is a good CSR. This is an investment which is not just a social responsibility, it is going to be profit generating. Because in a sense, you're going to reduce the turnover of your workforce. The gap between the employability of a fresh graduate and someone who's worked in your company for 5 years, 3 years, who you've trained, that's going to go away. Once you have the faith, once you understand that these institutions are imparting skilling programs with a certain quality, you are invested in those institutions. You're helping us co-create curriculum which is being done in those institutions. Then the amount of expenditure you need to do in training your own workforce is going to go down. So it's actually a win-win.
Okay. And what's your larger assessment of entrepreneurship? Because skilling is something which provides the base to the economy. Entrepreneurship is the ramjet engine of economy. So is that ramjet engine working?
I think, look at the startup ecosystem, definitely we've now the third largest ecosystem. There's a fund of funds that has just gotten approval, 10,000 crore. There's a lot of robustness. And when I go to an ITI, The children who don't have the capital, but who are now with these new technological tools, they have good ideas. And from idea to product to market, that time and the resource requirement is going to go down in this new era. And therefore, with India's large working age population, young people, young researchers, huge student population, I'm hopeful that a lot of the churn and the innovation is going to come from the grassroots. A lot of our startup ventures, you look at, where are these young boys and girls coming from? Tier 2, Tier 3 cities.
Yes.
And India is also, our government has announced a national framework for taking our global capability centers, which have been right now, just the Mumbai or the Hyderabad or the Bengaluru, they need to take them to the Tier 2, Tier 3 cities. So from a policy perspective, from a design perspective, from an appetite perspective of our average young person, India has a lot to offer, and it is entrepreneurship which will change the game.
There's been a lot of debate, in terms of startup, that our startup has been around a lot of gig economy. Startup is not creating new economic models or not speeding up the growth the way, for example, startups in American economy have done. They have created new value chains.
No, I think that is very unfair, because there is a progression. And you cannot compare the Indian startup ecosystem immediately with, California. We have an ecosystem now, and our startup ventures are also solving their own problems. So we have logistics gaps, which the gig economy is addressing. It is about how we think about it. We ourselves are not giving them the dignity. So in our own thinking, we are thinking this is a lesser job. Sitting on a bike and delivering something is not something which is a good job. It is fulfilling a gap. There is a gap. Those young boys and girls are getting an opportunity. There's a platform above that which is also using a form of technology. So I will not disparage the startup ventures that have come out in that space. But today, if you go to the AI summit, you'll see AI-based startups in agriculture. You can take a photo of a leaf of a crop and you can see, अच्छा ये pest आ रहा है, या आपका ये nutrient deficit आ रहा है. You can get crop advisories. So across the spectrum, you have a lot of new young startup ventures that are coming up. And I have full faith that in the next 10 years, the gap between the haves and the have-nots in India is going to go down. Our societal challenges are going to be addressed largely because of the intervention of our vibrant startups.
It's a side question, though an important one, since you very passionately talk about the farming community. If you look at the income data, there's a great disparity between, for example, if you say southern, the western states, or if you talk about the northern states, there's a huge income disparity. Where do you come in here in terms of empowering those farming communities, say in UP or Bihar?
That has been the case. We admire the strong ethic, the attitude towards education, the strong enabling culture that has encouraged more investment in our southern states. We are proud of that. And we need to maintain our linguistic diversity, our capacity in our southern states to stay ahead of the curve. We are working towards that. But also I come from UP, and therefore it's something that has hurt me for a long time. Let me tell you a story. About maybe more than a decade ago, I was with a group of MPs and we went to Australia. And a lot of the Australian states have their own presence in India. So in one of those interactions with the G2G meeting, some of their investors who are in India, their companies were there, and they had a map of India, and they had the Chennai and the Hyderabad and the Mumbai. They also had Haryana, but UP was UP Bihar was just a blank space. So I asked them, don't you have any plans? Don't you have any presence in Uttar Pradesh or any plans? And they were all looking blank faced back at me. So that has been the unfortunate story. It comes down to structures of governance, to policy visibility, to an attitude where rule of law is respected, a strong work ethic is demonstrated. It comes to how we all talk about UP. If we talk in disparaging, negative manner, no one else from outside the family will appreciate it. So at least we need to put the right aspects, the good parts of Uttar Pradesh out there. which is now as skill minister, I'm getting that opportunity to do. And I'm happy that the state government is also working very hard to transform. I would never have thought that Foxconn and HCL semiconductor, unit of that scale is going to come up in Western UP. It is. Today we have RRTS, which is going to be inaugurated Delhi to Meerut. So from connectivity point of view, from law and order, from having a policy for GCC, for data center, for semiconductor, ODOP, which is the more localized policy. And I think we need to do more to give scale and create a network effect for growth. For our MSMEs that are there in Uttar Pradesh, I think that's something that we need to work more on. But all of this gives me the confidence that the kind of deficits that you're talking about in terms of income,
Yes.
they will be addressed.
And before I close this interview, since you are also Minister of State in charge for education, why has education been so politically riled subject in last couple of years? Whether it's NEP or the reservation, the UGC issue, why?
Well, I think it always should be. It's a good sign that we are having so much public debate. These are the foundational blocks of society. And our country is on a transformational high pace of change. There's a lot of churn. There is urbanization, there is pace of large middle section of the economy is growing, middle class is growing, our consumer base is growing, our capacity to produce, create, innovate is growing. And as our economic power is growing, it is natural that there will be shifts in our education, pedagogy, curriculum. I think there's a lot of misinformation also that happens. For instance, on the 3-language formula. 3-language formula, there is no mandate for any one language. All we are saying is that if a child is taught in a mother tongue, on a local language, and we have so many in India, that it is a very powerful way. The learning outcomes are better and the retention is higher. So therefore, the cognitive impacts of education imparted in mother tongue is well established. There are many scientific analysis and reports that support that. All we are saying is at least 2 out of those 3 languages should be encouraged to be local languages. So this is the way that we preserve Tamil. We encourage schools in Tamil Nadu to have more Tamil speaking teachers for children in Tamil Nadu to learn using Tamil as a medium of instruction. There is nothing wrong in that. But because of the election cycles, I'm not just singling out Tamil Nadu. But some of our states have not cooperated because they see a very limited political point that they want to make.
So you think that the policy becomes a casualty of
it's a national education policy.
Politics.
It's not Delhi education policy. It is not an NDA education policy. It is for all of us. It is a very progressive document. In fact, if you compare it to policy documents coming out from any government of India ministry, the last 40, 50 years, it's the most forward-looking progressive document there is. The process started in about 2016. It took a lot of time, lot of dialogue, thousands of deliberations, thousands of recommendations, a lot of amendments and iterations were made. And in the policy document 2020, how many times AI has been mentioned? So for a policy document that came out in 2020, we understood that we are at the cusp of change. And that is why the policy asked us to integrate technology into our classrooms, for it to influence the way we teach our children, to focus more on learning outcomes, on FLN. Those kind of conceptualizations show you that it is a very progressive policy meant for every Indian, irrespective of which region you come from, what language you speak, what your cultural ethos is, what your nuances are. It should account for every child.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for making time for Newstime.
Thank you.
This isn't a trail of peace. This is pressure overload. A hill built for 1,000, forced to carry lakhs.
Instead of lightening the footprint, you have allowed people to actually get into every nook and corner of the Himalayas.